Right, so in the previous video, we made this folder, we put a text file into it, and made some changes to that file, and we pushed all those changes onto GitHub. So this, what we call repository, has a kind of a copy that's hosted online by GitHub. And there's the file that we added, file1.txt. And then if we go on to Insights and then Network, you see a graphical kind of picture of what's happened, which for now is not very exciting because we did two things basically. But first thing was we added this file1, first commit file1, and then we made a change to it. So made changes file1. Okay, so what we're going to look at this time is something called branching, which is really, really useful. So we'll see when we look at, if we load up Git for this repository, it's got this word master written on it, which we didn't really talk about, we didn't really deal with it, okay. And that means that we're on the master branch. So branches are like streams of work, basically. So one of the things you can do is you can take one of these commits, one of these blobs, and you can branch off of that and you can create a whole nother stream of work. And then once when you finish that work, you can merge it back onto this master branch. So that's actually a really, really useful thing to do. The general model that most people use is that the master branch is code that works, right? So this is the good stuff that's been tested, debugged, hopefully, etc., etc. And the branches is where you do your development. So when you create a branch, that's where you make your mistakes and if things go wrong, etc., etc. And you do all of that in a separate branch, and only when you're completely sure that it's ready, perhaps someone else has checked it as well, then you merge it onto this master branch. So what you've got is that the master branch is always the code that works and has full tests, etc., etc. And of course you can have multiple branches going at the same time that are doing different sorts of developments. So it's dead useful, actually. So the thing we'll look at today is how to create and work in a branch and then merge it back onto master. Okay, so now we're back in our test folder and I'll open up Git again. Okay, so we're going to create our branch. So we've got a new command to learn, and that is git branch. So zoom in a bit and I'll try and spell it right. And so now we're going to give our branch a name. So usually use these branches to develop new features. So you'd probably call it something to do with that feature, but you can just call it dev. So done. So we've created this new branch locally on our PC or whatever, but we're still in the master branch. So what we need to do is jump onto the development branch that we just created, and in Git that's called checkout. So you do a git checkout, and we're going to go to dev. There we go. If you want to see the branches that you've got locally, then you just do git branch, and there they are. So there's master, and we're currently on dev or development, whatever. Okay, cool. So now we're going to make some changes to our pretend code when we're in this development branch. So I'm going to open up file1 again, and we're going to add a third line of code that says, I don't know, development stuff. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, and save that. So now we go through all the usual stuff. So we say, well, okay, if we go through it all, what's the git status? Okay, well, we've modified file1. We've still got this untracked rubbish file. We're going to leave that as untracked. Again, if you've forgotten what you did, we would do, okay, what was git diff file1.txt. Oh yeah, we added that line development stuff. Okay, fine. So I'm going to add everything that's updated. So -u. Again, we went through that before. Oops, with git added first, obviously. Okay, yeah, good. And then you do, let's say, git status again. It says, okay, right, file 1 is staged. So that means it's ready. When you make a commit, all the files that have been staged will be included in that commit. Okay, so we'll make our git commit, and then as usual, we'll give it a message. Actually, this might be a good point to show. I know when we installed Git, I said make sure you tell it that you're going to use a sensible text editor, because sometimes it throws it at you. So here's an example. Up until now, when we make a commit, we've attached this flag, means message, and we've typed stuff in these inverted commas. If you don't do that, it will, well, let's have a go. It says, okay, you've not attached a commit message, but you can type it in here. And so because we told it that the default text editor is Notepad++, it's thrown that up for us. If we hadn't have done that, this is where you might become trapped in Vim. So that's where it happens. So we can add our commit message here. So we're saying first commit on development branch, something like that. All this, these all commented out, so don't worry about those. So we save that and close it, and now Git's going to treat that first line as our commit message. Okay, so now we've got that commit, we've got that snapshot of what this branch looks like on our local PC. What we're going to do next is push it onto GitHub. So what I'm going to do is naively do what I did before and say git push. And it says, oh, you can't do that yet. And the reason we can't do that yet is we've not told it that the development branch on the PC is going to point to an equivalent development branch on GitHub. And the reason why I've done this is to show you that sometimes, not always, but sometimes the error messages in Git are actually pretty useful. So it says it has no upstream branch. So that means it has no branch on GitHub, no equivalent branch on GitHub. And to push the current branch and set the remote as upstream, use this command. So basically it's saying if you want to, so upstream, it means GitHub. If you want to create the equivalent branch on GitHub, then just type this in. So actually it's quite a clear message. So we'll just do what it says. So really the point of that is just to say, unlike a lot of programs, sometimes the error messages are actually quite useful. So set upstream origin dev. Okay. So now if we go to the GitHub repository, it says, oh, there's a branch called dev, and it made pushes a minute ago. Then we look at that kind of network graph again. And we give it a second. Or more. Okay, there we go. So we've got our master branch, and then we've kind of taken a copy off of that, and we've created this development branch, and that's where we've made our commit. Okay. Actually, so once you've set up this upstream branch on GitHub, so there's a development branch on GitHub that's linked to your kind of local development branch, then you don't have to do that again. So if we go back to our folder, I'm going to make another change. So more development stuff, and then we go through the same stuff again. So I'm going to add all my updated files, which should just be file 1. So just to check, yeah, there it is. Git commit, going to give it a message. So this is our second development change. This time now it knows it's linked to the development branch on GitHub. just git push. Okay, go back here, we'll refresh. Yeah, there we go. We've got our second change. So now let's say, okay, we've done all our development. We think it's fine. It's good. It's ready. So like I say, you know, we normally keep on the master branch. That's where we keep the code that works. Basically, it's passed all your tests or whatever you've got. So you've done your development stuff and you debugged it and you've done whatever tests you need to do and you think, okay, that's fine. It's ready. Then what you need to do is get it back onto the master branch somehow. And that's called a merge. So in this case, it should be straightforward because the only thing that's changed is in this development branch. So what we're going to do is go back to Git. And what we're going to do is we're going to switch back to our master branch, and then we're going to bring in the changes from development. So remember, checkout was the command that got us between branches. So back to the master, we're going to do a git checkout and then master. And again, if you do git branch, it says, okay, that's the branches we've got. We're currently on master. And then we're going to say, right, let's merge those changes. Git merge dev. So merge everything from the development branch. Okay, it says file one thing's changed. That's what that green plus means. Fast forward is usually good news. What that means is that, excuse me, there's no conflicts. So we'll deal with that in a bit. But you can imagine if two people change the same line of file one in different ways on different branches, then you can get conflicts. But in this case, straightforward. We can bring the changes from the development branch straight into master. So that's called a fast forward. And then, all right, fine. I'm going to do a git push. And let's see what's happened on GitHub. There we go. Okay, so now those two commits, which were here and here, that we made in the development branch have now been merged into master. And so these two branches are now exactly the same. Right, so up until this point, we've kind of pretended that we're just working on our own, but we might be working with other people. So other people might be taking clones of this repository onto their own computers and doing stuff and then pushing those changes onto GitHub. So I think the final thing we'll do in this video is show how you kind of deal with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another clone of this repository. And basically, I'm just going to pretend that I'm another user. So both clones are on the same PC in this case, which obviously you wouldn't do normally, but we'll just do it here for the sake of example. So I'm going to put it somewhere that's not here, so we don't overwrite the one we've got. So I might stick it in, I don't know, documents, I suppose. So again, we've seen this before. Going to do a git clone, and then the address of the repository. And now I'm going to pretend to be a different user. Notice at the moment we're not actually in the test folder, so you can still use some of the standard window commands. If you want to get into the test folder from here, you can just do change directory test. Now we're in there and we're on the master branch. Let's say we're on the master branch, that's fine. So now I'm going to go in, look at file one, notice that that file rubbish.txt isn't in there because when we were being user number one, we didn't want it to be tracked by Git, so that's fine. So I'm going to come in here and say, okay, new line, whoops, of code added by user2. I'll do, and save that. And then we go through the standard procedure. add all the updated files. The commit message this time will be changes from user 2, and then off it goes. So, right, we're pretending it's someone else has done this on their own PC, I don't know, somewhere else in the world, whatever. So we've done that now, and go back to the network. The master branch, yeah, it's already happened. It's got this extra commit now. It's changes from user 2. Fine. So we're done pretending we're user 2, so I'm just going to delete that. So we've still got our original test folder, but if we open it up, it won't automatically have these changes brought into it. So it's got just the stuff that we did. Whereas GitHub now has this extra commit from the second user. So whereas before we were doing pushes to get our changes from our sort of local PC onto GitHub that's hosting the code. Now, because of user 2 getting involved, GitHub's now one commit ahead of what we've got on our PC. So we need to do the opposite, which is a pull. So if I go down to back to Git, which I've closed for some reason. Now what we need to do is say, okay, let's git pull. So let's basically collect all the changes that are on GitHub that we might not have now. So I've zoomed in quite a lot there, but basically it said, we've brought in a new line has been added to file 1. You think, okay, good. So we have a look, and there it is, new line of code added by user 2. So usually if you're writing code with other people, which you probably are at some point anyway, before you start to change a particular branch, it's a good idea to do a git pull just to bring in all the changes that everyone else has made. If you don't do that, what can happen is you can have a conflict, because you might have both tried to change the same line of a file, like I said earlier. And actually that can happen anyway. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just happens in code development, and Git has got its own way of dealing with that, and it's really, really useful. So I think that'll do for now. But in the next video, we will consider conflicts. So we'll probably take the development branch, make a change, and then in the master branch, make a change that conflicts the one we've made in development, and then we'll try and merge them together, and we'll see what happens.